All right, so I will count us down.
Okay.
All right. In 3, 2, 1. Hey, welcome back, everybody. Jeff Frick here, coming to you from Work 20XX, but I'm not in my home studio. I'm not in the home office. I'm actually in Austin, Texas at Running Remote. We came down here because this is where all the leaders are with all the best practice and the cutting edge technology and all of the cool research to talk about how you can leverage the processes of running remote teams to make all teams actually work better and to make all work better, whether you're remote, hybrid, distributed, or anything in between, or I guess the people that are 40 hours back in the office, but it'll work for you too. So we're excited to have our next guest, and she's actually been emceeing a ton of sessions, so she's probably got all kinds of new insight after listening to all these smart people for the last couple of days. We're excited to welcome. She's Mindy Honcoop. She is the founder of Agile and HR and a whole bunch of other stuff that we'll cover. Mindy, great to see you.
It's so great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So you have a really interesting story that you started out helping juveniles that got in trouble with the law. And you thought that was going to be your direction for your life, and it actually kind of informed to where you got to today, even though you're not working in the juvie system anymore.
No, it was part of my social work program. I was set on being a social worker. I've always wanted to make a difference. I think that's a common theme throughout my life. And I thought that was social work. That was my goal in high school, was to be a social worker. So I chose University of Washington, ranked 3rd in the nation. And
Go Huskies.
Go Huskies. And the internship, my last internship, my senior year, was with the Juvenile Defender's Office. And my husband's like, you never choose anything easy. But it really got me passionate about how do I make a bigger difference. And, I really started to, as I talked with these youth, I really started to see the adults in their lives. Not that it was a causation, but there was a strong correlation of the adults in their community and in their families not coming home from work, being their best selves.
Right.
We're not born with a sense of self-worth. That's something that's modeled for us as young people. And so when we have the adults coming back from unhealthy workplaces, that's where I started to get passionate. I was also rare, got married in college really young. My husband was in the workplace, and he started saying, Mindy, your work, our HR team should be asking the questions that you're asking and preparing for as a social worker. He's like, we need you in the workplace. So he actually arranged an interview with the HR team at his workplace. And that led to social work in the workplace.
Right. So you've done a bunch of formal roles in HR, but now you're doing your own thing and you're doing little fractional pieces here and there. How does fractional work for a senior executive? I've never quite figured out. Is it you have X number of commitment? Do you have equity? I mean, how is a fractional CMO different than just a regular kind of consulting relationship?
I feel like that answer depends, and some people really are staunch on their answer, the definition of fractional executive or fractional expertise.
I do not have a dog in the fight. So I'm just looking for a little clarity, because to me the consulting is pretty straightforward, and fractional sounds like more.
Yeah.
But what makes it more? And then it's like, is it equity? And then where do you draw lines as a fractional? Can you be obviously not with competitors, but it sounds like not quite so easy and cut and dry.
That's true. For me, my definition and from my experience is, and I work specifically with small, medium businesses between 50 to 500 employees. I have an intact HR person. I really saw a gap in that space. And what I loved about fractional versus consulting was that you actually get to help build the strategy with the leaders, but then you stay to then operationalize it and really help equip and upskill the current team members to be able to take that on beyond you. So that might be where I'm a little bit different than some fractional, where they have ongoing longer term commitments. For me, in fractional expertise or in leadership, fractional executive, it is really about building out that roadmap, that HR product roadmap, the people roadmap, and aligning that to the business strategy. I always talk about connecting the culture to the revenue.
Okay.
And in a 6-month to 9-month period, weaning away from me and the need for me, because we have helped you build the roadmap, identify it, start to up-level the people that will maintain that and take that further. And then you work with me on a retainer, an ad hoc basis on call.
So you're doing a great job. I'm sure the CEO's like, Mindy, come on. We need you. Not only do we need you 40 hours a week, we need you 60. Is it just a function of the fact that you usually work with smaller companies that aren't necessarily either big enough in revenue or just can't support that type of senior executive role, or you just say, this is the expectation coming in, I have a very specific process I'm going to help you with and give you some great leave behinds, but I'm not here forever.
So often, for me, as a fractional leader, I'm coming in and you need to be able, usually the leaders are, I think we got the people thing wrong, and I see a mindset shift, and help me be able to understand how do I move the needle and make that shift and really think about my people in a strategic way and align that to the people, process, and systems of the workplace ecosystem. And we can't afford, and you wouldn't want to have a Mindy that has 25 years of experience to come in. You don't need me 40 hours a day. But I do get involved. I build relationships with the leaders and really work to understand the current state and really then think about how do we shift the mindset but put into place a plan that is agile, that can evolve. But then it's about how do we build in your intact HR team for what you need right now, but how do we think about continuing to upskill and evolve that team so that we don't constantly have HR leaders that can only do the same thing over and over again, because that's often how I saw them getting burnt out. And like, I want to get beyond startup. I want to help a company grow. And so you can have that HR leader if they want to, and if they have the capability to be able to grow with the organization. And so that was my passion, was being able to, yes, set in place a roadmap, but then be able to coach and guide and equip that HR leader to be able to show up differently and really drive change through them. And I've also, in a way, found that as a fractional leader, I was getting better results by first initiating a mentorship with the HR person, because they needed to see how they were the solution. And then in order to start showing just drops of change, I always call it micro dosing of change. And then the leaders were able to start to finally see, oh, that's what Mindy meant. Now that I can tangibly feel the difference and the impact in the organization, now I'm going to invest more in this. Now I want to have the full fractional HR advising Mindy versus just let's start with a mentorship.
Okay, so part of your program is developing the team to put them in a different position, so that when it's time for you to exit, you've left behind not only the strategy but the team to actually execute it.
Because for me, the healthier workplaces, for fractional, if you continue, you can only do so much. You can only work with so many companies. We have so many small, medium businesses that have to start thinking differently. They're going to become obsolete if they don't. And I just had such a passion of how can I replicate this? How can I get to more companies? And so that's why I started to change and evolve how I was doing my work.
Okay, cool. So shifting gears, you've been out here on the stage for a couple days, emceeing, seeing a lot of great presentations. I wonder if you could share some impressions. What are some of your takeaways in terms of things you hadn't thought about, interesting twists and turns, some of the cool people that you've heard, and interesting concepts?
Yeah, amazing people, amazing concepts. Some of the common themes that I saw was one around the biggest barrier being fear to change. And fear of adoption of new things, fear of being replaced, fear of becoming obsolete, and how that really gets people stuck into a scarcity mindset where you don't actually get to curiosity. I also heard the theme of you need to be curious. You need to start asking questions about how am I working? How can I work differently? How can I work better? It's really that need to seek to understand, but that doesn't happen from a place of scarcity because you're holding on so tightly because of that fear. And Melinda talked about that before, about how in order to have change, we have to be in a place of possibility. We have to be in a place of positivity and be able to trust.
It's really interesting, the economics and the science of scarcity versus the economics and science of abundance.
That's right.
And many people will say that in the not too distant future, actually I interviewed a guy from the robotics, his vision is unlimited free labor in the form of humanoid robots. And how you start to manage things when you've got an abundance versus scarcity is really, really different. But being scared is a basic human thing, especially scared of the unknown. So what were some of the solutions that they provided so we can get over our fear of the unknown? I don't know if we can ever get scared completely over it.
There's so many solutions, but I think that's about it. It's about creating, right? We have to be creative to think about what is a possibility, to be able to think what doesn't exist today that I can create, that AI doesn't even know about because I'm creating something new. Like someone was talking about during the Industrial Revolution that jobs were replaced, but there wasn't really vacations. And now we have a whole vacation industry.
Right.
I was like, oh my goodness, that's such a light bulb moment.
Right.
That was so exciting. Like what don't we have today? I mean, now we have self-driving cars. And so like what does that open up? Because we have that we now makes possible something that we couldn't before without self-driving cars. For me, that's exciting because as I get old, I can actually still go places because you're going to take my driver's license away, and I want to still go places.
Oh, it's such a big self-driving cars for senior mobility is
huge.
Even in geofence locations to get started in communities is a giant. It's interesting. Kay Sargent from HOK was talking recently, and she said actually that Ford created the 5-day work week so that people would have time to go drive cars. Because up to that point, everybody worked on Saturdays as well. So he actually changed, I think he also created, the 8-hour shifts so that he could have 3 shifts per 24 hours to run the factory. So it's interesting how that stuff evolves.
Just innovation.
Right. Okay, so here's one. I've been hearing all kinds of interesting use cases of AI. So I want to know, how do you use AI in your day-to-day world? Give us a couple examples, because everyone is looking for either they know and they're started, or like, I don't know where to start. Where do I start? So how do you use AI?
It's my best friend. I use it a lot. And I'm an early adopter, so I love trying out new things. And the thing is that keeping up to date on all the new AI solutions. Like one is I was thinking about, okay, I can't really afford an executive assistant, but this email situation is out of control. So Fixer is a phenomenal email assistant and also does some scheduling. And so I use that as my AI email assistant. Fixer. It's amazing.
So it's just API into your Google email or your Microsoft Teams or whatever? Okay.
And it actually learns how I respond to emails.
Okay.
And it's actually, it's really good.
So how many emails has it written for you?
To respond
Tell
that
the
way.
truth.
It has reduced significantly the amount of time that I'm in my email because it also prioritizes what I should focus on. And then it deprioritizes. Now, sometimes it's too good because I'm like, that was important and I missed that but it gets better over time, right? It has to learn. We have to train the AI. So that's one thing. I use ChatGPT quite a bit, obviously in an anonymized and secure way, in order to be able to take and synthesize a lot of data in order to show outliers and themes. And that has really helped to really reduce the amount of work around culture, around values. And so you're doing a lot of focus group around values, seeing what resonates, and taking all that focus group feedback and being able to even get to a place of, I need to now respond back to what are the common themes that are coming out and how are we describing these. It just reduces amount. It takes hours out of the process.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing this, because everyone's looking for this great productivity that they keep reading about and they haven't found it yet. So thanks for sharing a couple concrete examples.
Yeah, and the sessions are recorded. So if you were a part of running remote, you can re-listen. And the last session we had on the deep dive stage with Alina, she actually had a ton of awesome case studies of how they've used AI in their organization that were very practical.
Awesome. So keep an eye out for the on-demand assets that will be coming to a YouTube channel soon. I don't know. All right. Well, Mindy, it was great to sit down with you. Congrats. You've been working hard out here on the hot stage for 2 days. So you did a great job. And we're almost through. Almost time for the evening affair.
Yeah. It was such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Super. Yeah. She's Mindy. I'm Jeff. You're watching Work 20XX. We're down in Austin at Running Remote for a special edition. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening on the podcast. See you next time. Take care.